My name is Sascha Gabizon. I'm the International Director of Women Engaged for a Common Future. We are a network of women and environmental organizations, and we have expertise specifically also on the topic of waste management, chemicals, and the way forward to a toxic-free future. And we're here in Zambia for a project for the United Nations Conventions on Chemicals and Waste. Operating with ZEMA, which is the Zambian Environmental Management Agency. And ZEMA and all the parties of the DRS conventions are trying to improve waste management by reducing pollution from waste and also by increasing reuse, innovation, and also by trying to build new solutions which can be done locally and which can provide alternatives to some of the main waste streams which we find in our country. In Zambia, we are looking specifically at plastic waste, and today we visited the main dump site, landfill, where all the trucks come and deposit mixed plastic waste from municipalities. And so we've seen the trucks arrive. We have the women and the men, but in the majority women, 60 to 70% women, often up to 700 or 900 women a day working on the landfill, who come when the trucks arrive. They look for the bottles, they look for the recyclable glass, they look for the recyclable paper. If they find something like a wick, it can also maybe be recycled. They look also for any valuable things like metals or copper cables, etc. So that is their job. And they are the experts. They know the different types of plastic, which can be recycled more easily, which can't be recycled. But the main share of the waste in this rainy season, 70% of the waste, is vegetable, green, household waste, which comes from the kitchens, which comes from the gardens, etc. And that gives a very bad smell. So all around the waste dump, also the houses which are close to the waste dump, are covered in a very, very bad smell. And luckily at this time, the waste dump has been, and the landfill has been improved. So since 2 years, there is a management company. They have made sure that the fires are stopped, so that it's not burning all the time, because if the waste burns and the plastic in the waste, which contains chemicals, you get a lot of very toxic emissions with dioxins, for example. So that is even worse than the smell. The waste from burning plastic is very, very toxic. So what we did is we spoke to some of the waste pickers, men and women, 3 men, 2 women, 2 men, 3 women, and we discussed their vision. What can be improved? How can they have more dignified working conditions? How can they earn better money? How do they see an improvement? So the women waste pickers are already well organized. They are already at the second step from the lowest level of waste pickers, because they are selling. They're putting together different types of plastic and they're selling to the Chinese recyclers, and they get a certain quite good price for a big bag of already sorted plastic bottles to be recycled. But what they would really need are things like a place where they can work more safely. Now they're standing in the middle of the mud. If they could have like separate concrete, maybe a space, but maybe a roof, where they could maybe have a crushing machine so that they can reduce the volume and they can transport more volume in the same truck. All of that would help them improve the income for their activities. So we learned a lot of things from these women waste workers. What they're already doing, but what doing well and what can be further. The other key aspect is that we visited rural communities. We went to Mambwa, which is 2 hours, 3 hours from the capital city of Lusaka. And there we talked to about 50 women who are part of a community organization that are doing agroecology. They are producing very healthy foods. They are making their own natural fertilizer. They're not using toxic pesticides. But they have a waste problem because in the bylaws of the local municipality and enforced also by the local traditional leaders are very good rules for sanitation. So there should not be waste laying everywhere around. But there is no rule to say that you should separate the plastics, because they're toxic, away from the other waste. Now, of course, most of the waste is just green waste, which is not toxic. And you can reuse it, you can compost it. Even if it's burned, you can reuse the ashes as fertilizer. But if you mix that with burnt plastic, then suddenly your compost and your ashes become toxic. And there is no awareness about that, and also no way to address the pollution from plastic waste in these rural areas. There's no separate collection, there are no trucks which come by to pick up your bottles if you would like to sell them for recycling. All of that is non-existent at the moment. But everywhere people use plastic bottles for drinking water, or for other, mostly it's bottles which are being used. Sometimes also plastic is used for seedlings to make the little plants, so instead of a pot.
My name is Yuyun Ismawati. I'm the co-founder and senior advisor of Nexus 3 Foundation, Indonesia. I'm also affiliated to Women Engaged for Common Future as the advisory board, and also as the IPEN co-chair. It's a big network working on toxic-free future. Yes, we are here in Zambia for several days now, and we had the opportunity to look around, including visiting the landfills and meeting with several groups of women working on the ground, and also some activists and also companies who work or involved in plastic waste management. There are some interesting findings and stories to share. From our workshops and discussions with stakeholders, we see that there are a lot of interest, or huge interest, from the participants when I explain about the plastic chemicals. For sure, I think it's only small group of people or the public understand that to make plastics, you use petrol or fossil materials and then chemicals to make plastics provide or functioning as we would like to, like soften the bottles for soften the plastics to make bottles, and so on and so on. So when I explain about the plastic chemicals, many participants asking for more information, and they would like to see more and more, they call it sensitization about this issue, about the danger or the harmful effect of chemicals in plastics, and why they cannot burn the plastics waste in the open space. And even I gave them also considerations that recycling of plastics several times until the lowest level, or make plastics into low quality, like black buckets. It's the examples of the lowest grade of plastics. But that's also mean that the chemicals in the plastics also accumulated in the products. So when we are promoting circular economy and recycling, I hope that knowledge of knowing what type of plastic chemicals that commonly we will find it in our products, in our daily products, will make also the relevant authorities and government to provide guidance and also prohibitions of certain chemicals to be added in plastics.
My name is Griffins Ochieng. I'm from Center for Environment, Justice and Development in Kenya. Our role in the project, we are part of experts that based on our experience of the scoping study that we did in Kenya, to be able to give examples and the learnings from the project in Kenya to the countries that are now being part of the case study project as part of implementation of the BRS Convention. So these countries are Zambia and Rwanda. As part of this data collection, as part of this case study scoping, we are doing the field visits. So we visited the main dam site. We are visiting different groups, particularly women groups that are involved in plastic waste management value chain. And also we are also visiting institutions, basically to gain understanding of the policy and legal framework that underpins the management of plastic in Zambia. So this scoping or this case study involves a varied methods of understanding of data collection, but the aim is to really gain and also create awareness, sensitization around the importance of gender mainstreaming or gender dimension in programs and projects that are implemented in the country, so that the country can be able to implement the gender action plan of the BRS Convention.
So there we see that progress is happening, but again, there is still more to do on the fact that plastics contain toxic chemicals and that we have to treat them almost like toxic waste, as if you would treat medical waste. We have almost to treat plastic waste like medical waste, and that is something which still needs to be further integrated into the institutions, into the local and the national laws and guidelines.